Howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to go through my thoughts on what you'll need to do if your goal is to go for 36 or 40 challenges in the last couple of days of the Synthesis League. I'm going to assume that you're either very comfortable with leveling a character quickly or that you're already at high level in the Synthesis League as a prerequisite for this. If you're the sort of person that finds getting to level 85 or 90 a daunting task, then you will not be able to get 36. There's just simply not enough time left. You've got until the 3rd of June, and the exact time can be checked by going to the Grinding Gear Games website and checking what it is in your time zone. So I'm going to assume that you've already picked up all of the low-hanging fruit challenges. So things like completing Vale side areas that are really easy to get done. A lot of these are pretty trivial. The one that I will point out that wasn't available early on, but that is a very trivial one now, is defeat synthesis monsters. I believe the Fleric synthetes were not spawning at all in the first week. They're all over the memory nexus, so just jump into the memory nexus, run a couple of zones there, and you'll have a rare Fleric synthete killed in no time at all. But you will have missed that one if you were playing only in the first week. In terms of other low-hanging fruit that's a little bit non-trivial, completing twinned maps requires you to kill a twinned courthouse. Courthouse is one of the hardest bosses I find in really one of the hardest bosses that's found on a non-tier 16 map. And twinning it makes it nastier. There's a lot of incoming damage. You want to be careful, but you can really cheese this a lot by using decoy totem, so you'll be fine. If you use decoy totem, get the monsters attacking that, then you'll be fine to just deal your damage. If your character's not super powerful, you will still be able to get that down. Now, in terms of other things that you will need to do that are non-trivial, you will want to complete these encounters 1. You'll notice that I don't have this yet. This is actually going to be my 36th 36th challenge that I complete, maybe my 37th. Defeat the Guardian of the Vault. Defeating Doedre the Defiler while she's screaming is not very hard, and defeating Stonebeak and Gnar within 5 seconds of each other is not very hard either. These are bosses that you might not get the hard mode done on your first attempt of them, but you will be able to do it without any further advice. The Guardian of the Vault requires you to prolong the fight intentionally so that he has more time to spawn adds. Those adds will then attack you. You're going to need to kite them around, kill them while being very careful not to kill the actual boss, and also dodging the runic circle attacks. The runic circles are easy to dodge, but can be a little bit harder while you're trying to launch attacks that kill animated guardians but don't kill the the Guardian of the Vault. In any case, this is a tricky one, but it's not ridiculous. It's actually easier to do on the tier 16 version of the Vault. If your character's really powerful, say you've got a character that's comfortably cruising through high tier maps, you may want to swap your Elder Orb over to Vault map for a little while, collect yourself a few Elder Vaults, and then run them that way. Next up, you've got Defeat Fragment of Winter while at least 10 Summon Volatile Ice are alive. This one's a real pain in the ass, and for this one I suggest that you roll up a twinned waterways map and use some powerful single target skill in order to burn the boss down. It doesn't necessarily need to be a skill that you would normally use, just use a skill that works with the rest of your passive tree, and then burn down one of the 2 bosses. This one's easier to do on the normal version of Waterways map rather than to use an Elder version. It's a bit of a mongrel. Next up is one that you'll notice that I don't currently have this, but this will be trivial for me to get. Complete Distant Memories 1. You just need to kill the 4 different synthesis bosses, not the Cortex, so the 4 different minor synthesis bosses. You'll need to kill all of these. There is also another achievement later for killing them as hard modes, where you have to dodge. They'll all have a big telegraphed attack that you need to dodge, and so the hard mode is to do them without taking damage from the telegraphed attack, or sometimes something a little bit different. So you're going to need to get that one done. While you're doing this, there's a realistic chance that you will land a fractured unique item, which you'll then use in the synthesizer to synthesize a unique item. If not, you're going to need to buy a unique item to use for this. That might be quite expensive. I hope you've got a few Exalted Orbs saved up so that you can trade for them now. Whilst they were very cheap earlier in the league, they have become more expensive lately as everyone rushes to get their achievements completed. Now we have Complete Memories 3. This is one that I got in a reasonable amount of time, but it's quite luck based. What you need to do here is just keep running more and more maps so that you will find fragmented memories. In the fragmented memories, you will then need to run through and complete the event. Your best bet for getting all 45 different ones of these is to run low tier maps and just roll them trivially easy. So if I didn't have this, let's say that I was missing one of them still. What I would do is I just go to my map tab and I'd pick a tier of maps that I can just blitz through at lightning speed. So maybe I'll just look for tier 5s, and I'm looking for a layout that is very quick and easy. There's not really any amazing ones there. Glacier is a pretty good choice. So I'd roll up 10 Glacier maps. When I say roll them up, I'd just actually stick them into the map device as they are. I'd then go and I'd blitz through to looking for the fragmented memory. When I found it, I'd run it, I'd beat it, and then I'd exit the map and start again. Beach is another good example. You can always find it quickly. Arid Lake is great. Jungle Valley is great. Atoll is marginal. There's lots of low tier maps that you can do really quickly. Strand, Peninsula, all of these. You're just looking for Zana or Carvis depending on where you are in the progression chain, and then keep running them until you've got all 45. Some of them spawn more often in story zones as well. So if you're missing one and you just can't seem to find it, do try running some story zones as well. Next up, we have Complete These Encounters 2. I recommended doing this in the 24 of 40 guide as well. But if you haven't done it already, the big barrier is the prophecies. 200 prophecies is a pain in the ass to get. You're going to want to buy a lot of silver coins off other players, and you're just going to want to talk to Navali and have a look at your prophecy tab and go, oh, actually I've got my prophecy tab is full, and I know they're all full of ones that can proc pretty easily. Actually, with the exception of Twice Enchanted and Lasting Impressions, less so. Not Lasting Impressions, the Alchemist. This one's a pain in the ass. You've got to find the right enemy. So let's just then seek it. Okay. This one's an automated proc, so that's good. I'll take that. This one procs in a specific zone, so I would just run an Arachnid Tomb map. This one comes up in a Vale side area, so I would just stick a Sacrifice at Dawn into the map device. I would seal this one. In fact, I will. I'll seal it and I'll replace it with something that requires less effort to trigger. You'll find Elva and complete a mission. Yep, that can come up just by virtue of entering a zone. So that's my approach for there. Just make sure that every time you enter a map, you have got 7 prophecies that are easily procced, and you'll get that in a moderate amount of time. Connect memories to rewards. This one is going to be there's an element of luck to this. This is one that you can conceivably skip. Your goal here is on your memory nexus, you need to traipse out paths. So let's say that I needed to traipse out the prophecy path. I would need to form a path here. Oops. So this here is a successful path that connects to this distant cliffside path memory. However, I don't get credit for it until I have actually completed this ritual memory. And when I've completed this ritual memory and placed the sandbar, at that point, this becomes connected, because it's attached to a square that is not just an idea, it's not just a dream, but it is actually locked in place. So I'd need to do that. That's a fair bit of effort to get to do, because you're going to need to do it for 17 of the 21 different reward types. These reward types are of different rarities. Some of them are quite common, like armor chests and weapon chests and fractured item chests. Some of them are moderately rare, and some of them are very rare. And you're just going to need to keep going through and running more and more rewards until you get them all. This one is, I would expect you're going to need to do a couple of hundred maps in order to do this. so get started straight away. Syndicate Mastermind was in my list of 24. You really want to do this one, and it's not as hard as it sounds, but it is a fair amount required. Memory modified memories. This is one that you can skip, but what I suggest you do is you jump in the trade channel /trade 820 and just watch for other players that have acquired one of these and are looking to sell it. So what they will do is they will say, okay, this is my fee. Their fee might be 50 Chaos Orbs. It might be, it might be 5 Exalted Shards. It might be something like that. They will say, this is my fee. And then if you pay this, you can come and join me while I complete one of these zones, and you will get credit for that. You just need to be in their zone when they tap the memory stabilizer that opens the zone at the beginning, and then you'll get credit for it. Complete memory amplifiers you will have already got while you're getting set up. Connect memories. This one requires a little bit of playing around. What you need to do is get, you'll see how that this one is just an idea, whereas this one is firmly planted. You will need to have, going from one direction out from your memory nexus, you will need to be connected to at least 20 firmly planted memories, 2 of which need to be on these memory amplifiers, so that's these yellow diamonds on the ground, and 1 of them connected to some sort of reward memory. This one is not too hard as long as you realize that the memories only count if they're actually placed and they're not just a dream of being placed. In any case, it's a little grindy, but you'll be able to get there. Now, next up we have complete these encounters 3. This is a technically challenging hard modes of various bosses that you will have been fighting anyway. So defeating the Shaper without detonating any anomalies. The easiest way to do this is just by doing an extraordinary amount of damage really quickly to the Shaper. If you do that, then you'll be able to take him down without setting off any anomalies. The hardest part of the Shaper fight, when you're going for this hard mode, is navigating the bullet hell move. What I would suggest, if you're in softcore, just accept a death to the bullet hell. So focus on dodging the anomalies, whereas normally you would focus on correctly executing the bullet hell, and that means staying in the middle of the map in Zana's bubble. What you're going to do is just try to try to dodge the bullet hell if it actually goes off. If you can kill the Shaper before he casts bullet hell, that's even better. But if you can't, just run out into the bullet hell and just try and dodge as well as you can. If you're in hardcore, that's a lot more difficult, and I would suggest in that case that you just ask around for other players that can assist you with doing this, because it is a very difficult achievement in hardcore. It's something that you can be really proud of pulling off if you can do it. Defeating the Vessels of the Vaal and the Alluring Abyss within 5 seconds of each other. The 5-second timer seemed more lenient than 5. I know I felt like I'd stuffed this up when I did it. I felt like they were more like 8 seconds apart, but in any case, it's just the first boss of the Alluring Abyss, so that's the harder version of Atsuri's zone. You need to kill them within 5 seconds of each other, which is not very lenient. You may want to use you may want to do damage with one skill, but have a secondary skill with Culling Strike ready to kill them off. Defeat the Syndicate Mastermind while allowing all volatile skeletons to rise and without detonating any in an area level of 80 or higher. This is a DPS race encounter. You want to be bursting down Katarina as quickly as you can, whilst getting away from the volatile skeletons and just sort of kiting them around the zone. Kill a monster with 5 essences in an area level 80 or higher. This is luck. This is the one that may cause you to come unstuck, and if you don't get this, then there's no point going after all of the rest of this achievement. So I would suggest that you get this one first, then if you've got this, then you go for the other 3. In order to get 5 essences, you will need to find a monster that naturally has 4, and then corrupt a 5th one onto it. This seems to come up a lot more often in group play. but it's still a pretty rare occurrence anyway, and it's an absolute mongrel. Next up, we have the hard modes of the various synthesis bosses. Defeat Altered Synthete without taking damage from summoned stationary Philimites. Defeat Augmented Synthete without taking damage from summoned stationary Philimites. Defeat Twisted Synthete, and defeat Rewritten Synthete without taking damage from various effects. So these are the hard modes of these bosses. Each of these bosses has a well-telegraphed attack that you need to completely avoid taking damage from in order to get credit for this. This is a difficult challenge, and it's one that I would suggest you are willing to skip. You can do it if you can. Ask other players for help, because there are players that will specialize in doing these and will often be happy to make you a trade whereby you help them in their endgame grind, in their quest to get 100 boss encounters in synthesis zones for endgame grinds, and then in exchange they'll try to do the hard mode. They'll make a good faith attempt at the hard mode. Okay, reach level 90, you would have got this for sure. 1,000 fractured items, you will have got that for sure. Now there's 2 Cortex achievements. The Cortex is the rarest of the 5 boss encounters, and it is by far the hardest of them. Cortex 1 and Cortex 2 somewhat go together. Cortex 2 is a series of hard modes for the Cortex encounter, where you need to dodge various attacks. In order to succeed here, you'll notice that 2 of these are counterposed. You cannot possibly do 3 and 4 at the same time. So you'll need to do 3 in one run and 4 in another. So most players that are going for 36 aim to do at least 2 Cortexes. The Cortex is a pretty rare spawn, and so many players are working on the basis that they accept they will just have to trade in order to get their hands on a Cortex memory. In the channel Trade 820, you will be able to find players that are running services for that will assist you in completing the Cortex. There are 2 types of services that are available. There's what they call taxi services. I'm going to engage one of these soon. I have a Cortex encounter. I'm not confident that I can defeat it, and certainly not with the hard modes. So what I will do is I'll ask around for a Cortex taxi. What that means is that I've got the Cortex, and I'm looking for someone with boss killing experience, and that person is then going to pay me in order to take ownership of the remaining portals to the Cortex. So I'll deal with them. I will sell them the Cortex, and usually they'll pay you 3 exalts, and they will also let you keep all the loot that drops in there. They will then approach 3 to 4 other players and say, hey, I've got a Cortex, I'm willing to do hard modes 1, 2, 4, and 5, and in exchange I want you to pay me 3 exalts. For the person that owned the taxi, they're succeeding in getting their Cortex done, they get the achievements if they care about them, and they get 3 exalts and all of the loot of the Cortex. It's a great deal. From the point of view of the person running the service, so that's the boss killer, they end up spending 3 exalts. They pay 3 exalts to the person whose Cortex it is, but they collect 3 from each of 3 or 4 other players. Even if they fail occasionally, in which case they've lost their 3 exalts and they won't be able to claim anything from the players that have come along for the ride. Even if they fail occasionally, they'll still end up with a sizable profit out of it. So it's profitable for both of them. It's also a very useful service for the people that want to get this Cortex 2 done. So for that reason, I recommend using Trade 820 to get these done. Next up, we have Complete These Encounters 4. Now firstly, if you are not playing in the Flashback League, do not attempt this challenge. You need to skip this one. This is actually the hardest of all 40 if you're doing it in the Parent Synthesis League. And the reason for that is this Exchange Parandus coins with Card Hero Parandus is a ridiculously difficult challenge to complete successfully in the primary Synthesis League, because there's almost no access to Card Hero Parandus. And whilst the other 3 options are very easy to do, it doesn't help you because you need to get this one, otherwise it doesn't count. If you're playing in Flashback though, this is acquiring about 5,000 coins will take you typically until about level 86 or 87, and you will find Cardiro in various maps. You'll then just be able to go, okay, I'll just take whatever crap you're offering me in exchange for getting my credit towards this achievement. But yeah, be aware that this is very, very, very different between Flashback and the Parent Synthesis League. Complete Deadly Encounters. This is just 4 difficult bosses. Atzuri in the Alluring Abyss, the Shaper, and Vale Temple can be pretty reliably accessed. Alluring Abyss, you may need to pay quite a bit for Mortal Hope and Mortal Ignorance this time in the league, but hopefully, while you've been running to level 90, you will have got a couple of, you would have got several hundred Chaos Orbs worth of loot, so you'll be able to afford that. A Delve boss in an area level 83. If you're not going to have time to develop your Delve mines at this point, and so this is going to be one you're going to have to buy from another player. The Shaper and Vale Temple are pretty straightforward. They're difficult encounters, but there's nothing tricky about accessing them, and if you know how to do the fights, then you're great. Complete Zana's questline. This is basically saying kill Uber having done everything that builds up to killing Uber Not the hardest thing in the world to pull off, but in terms of the fight, but also not the most trivial. You are absolutely welcome to enlist the help of an experienced boss killer in doing this. And there's a lot of people. If you can spawn Uber, there are a lot of people that will be willing to pay you. They'll be willing to kill Uber for you on a basis of their loot, and they will pay you something as well. Synthesis Map Grind. This is basically all about grinding low tier maps. I would suggest that this is one you're going to skip. However, you still have time. If you're a really fast player, you can get this done. What you need to do is run about 1,000 Elkin Go tier 1 maps. It doesn't need to be tier 1, but tier 1 will be fastest. You need a character that is optimized for extremely fast movement speed. Because I've mostly been playing higher tier maps in Synthesis League, I haven't even completed this. I'm only 80% through it. I will complete it during this weekend, but it will be my 38th challenge, I believe. Lastly, there's endgame grinds. This is the one, you do not even touch this if you're going for 36. This is going to be people's 40th challenge, so you can completely ignore this. Anyways, hopefully that helps you assess how realistic it is to aspire towards getting 36 of 40, and whether you've got enough time. There is absolutely no shame in deciding, nope, I don't have enough time, or even to say, no, I'm not going to have fun trying that, therefore I'm not going to try it. But if you do decide to go for it, best of luck, and have a good one.